According to the Bible, a fetus is not a person, apparently. So we're going to talk about this issue of abortion again today because it's such a hot topic for us. But first, I want to ask, if you haven't already, subscribe to this channel here and check out my website at benhaman.org. And I hope that I can be a blessing to you. So my brother-in-law last week sent me a link to an article. Shout out to you, AJ. And it is called What the Bible Actually Says About Abortion May Surprise You. I'm going to show you this article. It's from The Conversation. I'm not familiar with The Conversation, but it says academic rigor, journalistic flair. And I don't know about the other articles. It's the only one I've ever read that I remember from this particular website. But I get the journalistic flair, but the academic rigor seemed to be missing from this particular article. And so what the Bible actually says about abortion may surprise you. And so we're going to look at this a little bit today and see what this article actually says and what some people say. And there's actually, I think in this whole article, only one, what we might call a halfway decent argument. And it's from Exodus chapter 21, where some people say, well, the Bible does not treat an unborn baby, a fetus, as actual comparative quality to what they might call a living human being, a grown-up, a person who's already been born. And so we're going to look at that and see what the Bible actually says about that. But to get an idea about this whole argument, let's look at some of these. This is written by, I'm looking for the name of the person who wrote it. I think it's a female. I don't see the name on here right now. But let's just go ahead and jump into this. It says, in the days since the Supreme Court overturned Roe v. Wade, just recently, which had established the constitutional right to an abortion, some Christians have cited the Bible to argue why this decision should either be celebrated or lamented. But here's the problem. This 2,000-year-old text says nothing about abortion. Okay, some things to say about that first. It says, since the Supreme Court overturned Roe v. Wade, which had established the constitutional right to an abortion. Now, that's interesting wording because really that is what Roe v. Wade did. They tried to establish a constitutional right to abortion, even though there is none actually in the Constitution. And the latest decision, Dobbs, that overturned Roe v. Wade, in that the justices correctly basically said that Roe v. Wade was a ridiculous argument. It was not founded in truth. And so they overturned it, which is a very good thing for them to do because there is no constitutional right to an abortion. There's nothing like that. And so that was an interesting way to put it. And he goes on, he or she, whoever wrote this, as a university professor of biblical studies, I am familiar with faith-based arguments Christians use to back up views of abortion, whether for or against. Many people seem to assume the Bible discusses a topic head-on, which is not the case. And so this author is going to go on and describe, among a couple other reasons, why we as Christians cannot make an argument against abortion based on the Bible, because they're going to say that abortion was very common in Bible times, but the Bible does not specifically say anything about it. Now, I would disagree with that, but that is their argument, okay, that the Bible doesn't specifically say anything about abortion. Now, that is a non sequitur. A non sequitur is something that doesn't follow. Just if, let's just for the sake of argument say that the Bible does not discuss abortion. Now, it does discuss murder. Abortion is the killing of a baby, so it does discuss murder at any stage of life. But let's just say for argument it didn't. Does that mean it's okay? No, it doesn't. That it doesn't follow. Just because the Bible doesn't specifically address something and say abortion is wrong, using the term abortion rather than murder, doesn't mean it's okay. Okay, so this is not logical. It doesn't follow. But I believe the Bible does specifically prohibit murder, which is very clear. And murder is taking of an innocent life, which is what a baby is. Okay, so right off the bat, you can see that this article kind of lacks a little bit in the intellectual department. But let's keep reading. Let's see what this person says. Ancient context. Abortions were known and practiced in biblical times. Okay? although the methods differ significantly from modern ones. The 2nd century Greek physician Soranus, for example, recommended fasting, bloodletting, vigorous jumping, and carrying heavy loads as way to end a pregnancy. I didn't fact check this. I have no idea if Soranus said this or not. We're just going to go on the sake of argument that this author knows what they're talking about, okay? Because it really doesn't matter in the end. Soranus' treatise on gynecology acknowledged different schools of thought on the topic. Some medical practitioners forbade the use of any abortive methods. Others permitted them, but not in cases in which they were intended to cover up an adulterous liaison or simply to preserve the mother's good looks. In other words, the Bible was written in a world in which abortion was practiced and viewed with nuance. Yet the Hebrew and Greek equivalents of the word abortion do not appear in either the Old or New Testament of the Bible. That is, the topic simply is not directly mentioned. Again, it doesn't have to. It doesn't have to specifically say that you shall not have an abortion, whatever the Hebrew or Greek word would specifically be. God summed it up very simply. Don't kill. Don't kill. Don't murder. You know, here's this baby that scientifically is alive. It's growing in there. In the life of its mother has a different DNA structure than its mother. And this is the life, and you kill it. That is murder. So this person, I don't know what he or she is really thinking, but it doesn't make any sense. So now we get to what the Bible says. Okay, now we're going to try to make some arguments here. The absence of an explicit reference to abortion, however, has not stopped its opponents or proponents from looking to the Bible for support of their position. It's a good thing. As Christians, we should look to the Bible and see, even if it doesn't specifically address something that we're talking about, we try to get advice from the Bible and, you know, put things together and determine this particular situation. How does the Bible respond to that, even if it doesn't mention it specifically? That's what we do. That's how we study the Bible and get instructions for everyday life. Abortion proponents turn to several biblical texts that, taken together, seem to suggest that human life has value before birth. I would go further. I would say it doesn't seem to suggest it. I would say it outright says it. There is value before birth. For example, the Bible opens by describing the creation of humans in the image of God. That's the basis why murder is wrong, by the way. A way to explain the value of human life, presumably even before people are born. Likewise, the Bible describes several important figures, including the prophets Jeremiah and Isaiah and the Christian apostle Paul, as having been called to their sacred task since their time in the womb. Psalm 139 asserts that God knit me together in my mother's womb. Okay, throwing some Bible verses out here to help us understand that what Christians believe. Yeah, we believe life is precious. Of course we do. We believe the Bible. However, abortion opponents are not the only ones who can appeal to the Bible for support. Supporters of abortion can point to other biblical texts that would seem to count as evidence in their favor. Now, here's one of them, and we're going to look at this, and we're going to talk about it at the end. Exodus chapter 21 suggests that a pregnant woman's life is more valuable than the fetus is. Okay, now I'm going to skip this paragraph here for now because we're going to come back to it at the end. I want to spend a little bit of time and talking about that more. So just hold on to that. We're going to come back to that. There are other biblical texts that seem to celebrate the choices that women make for their bodies, even in contexts in which such choices would have been socially shunned. The 5th chapter of the Gospel of Mark, for example, describes a woman with a gynecological, okay, you fill it in. Ailment that has made her bleed continuously, taking a great risk. She reaches out to touch Jesus' cloak in hopes that it will heal her, even though the touch of a menstruating woman was believed to cause ritual contamination. However, Jesus commends her choice and praises her faith. Similarly, in the Gospel of John, Jesus' follower Mary seemingly wastes resources by pouring an entire container of costly ointment on his feet and using her own hair to wipe them. But he defends her decision to break the social taboo around touching an unrelated man so intimately. Now, what this author is saying here is that you have these two women here. And back it up. You have two women. You have this woman with this issue of blood and Mary pouring perfume on Jesus' feet. And both of them did something that was not accepted in society, but they did it with their bodies, and Jesus condoned what they were doing. Now, once again, we have a non sequitur. How does that relate to the abortion question? Because this woman with the issue of blood, she did something that was not accepted with her own body. What'd she do? She went up and touched Jesus' clothes. And Mary, she did something with her body. That's the buzzword, right? Women have the right over their own body. So she goes up to Jesus and she pours perfume on his feet. So that means that you can kill your baby before it's born. This simply doesn't make any sense at all. Nobody died. Nobody killed a baby. It's not like Mary took this box of perfume and bashed somebody over the head with it and stole it from them and came and put it on Jesus' feet. No, she simply brought it in. Yeah, she can do that with her own body. She can break social norms with her body. That's fine. Nobody got hurt. Nobody died in this. So to even bring these up as, well, a woman should be able to do whatever she wants with her own body is simply ridiculous, borderline stupid, okay? It has no connection with reality. And then we get to this last little section here, beyond the Bible, okay? In the response to the Supreme Court's decision, Christians on both sides of the partisan divide have appealed to any number of texts to assert that their particular brand of politics is biblically backed. Oh, abortion now is a political issue, right? And people have made it a political issue. Abortion is not a political issue. Abortion is a moral issue and to a degree, a scientific issue. You know, is scientific? Is this really a life? Well, yeah, scientists more and more are realizing, yeah, this has different DNA structure. It's growing. You know, it's just exactly how a human being should look at that stage of its life, right there, before birth and after conception. But they say, no, now this is political. This is not political. This is moral. Okay. And so they're saying, well, Christians, they're trying to push their religion into politics. No, we're trying to stand up for what's right. However, if they claim the Bible specifically condemns, let me move that up. If they claim the Bible specifically condemns or approves of abortion, they are skewing the textual evidence to fit their position. No, absolutely not true. Of course, Christians can develop their own faith-based arguments about modern political issues, whether or not the Bible speaks directly to them. You Christians, you can have your cute little political views. That's fine. That's what they're saying. But it's important to recognize that although the Bible was written at a time when abortion was practiced, it never directly addresses the issue. Now, if you know anything about writing, you know that your summary should summarize the strongest argument that you have, right? And this is the weakest argument in this whole thing. The strongest argument that this person has is about Exodus 21 that we're going to be here to in just a minute. And it even itself is a weak argument. So this person takes the weakest argument that because the Bible doesn't specifically address abortion, which is not a good argument, that therefore abortion is okay. It doesn't make any sense. It's a bad summary. Just simply doesn't make any sense. So now I want to go back. We're going to scroll right back up here to the situation about Exodus 21 right here. And I want to read this because we're going to look at Exodus 21 and we're going to see what does it actually mean. All right. So Exodus 21, for example, suggests that a pregnant woman's life is more valuable than the fetus's. This text describes a scenario in which men who are fighting strike a pregnant woman and cause her to miscarry. A monetary fine is imposed if the woman suffers no other harm beyond the miscarriage. However, if the woman suffers additional harm, the perpetrator's punishment is to suffer reciprocal harm up to life for life. So in other words, you hurt the woman, you pay for it, hurt the baby, and the baby dies, is miscarried, no big deal. It shows that the Bible says that a fetus is not a real person. A fetus is not that important. Is that actually what it says? Well, guess what? There's one way to find out, and it's not by reading an article by a non-Christian. It's about actually reading the Bible. What does the Bible say in Exodus chapter 21? So guess what? Because we want to think biblically, because we want to compare everything we do with the Bible, we are going to look at what the Bible actually says. Here it is right here. Exodus chapter 21. Now, this whole chapter is about how to treat people, how to judge situations, where there's fighting between people, okay? And the important verses we're going to get down to are in verse 22, okay? In verse 22, it says, if men fight and hurt a woman with child, pregnant woman. By the way, it's a woman with child. It's not a birthing person. How ridiculous can you be? If men fight and hurt a woman with child so that she gives birth prematurely, yet no harm follows, he shall surely be punished according as the woman's husband imposes on him, and he shall pay as the judges determine. But if any harm follows, then you shall give life for life, eye for eye, tooth for tooth, hand for hand, foot for foot, burn for burn, wound for wound, stripe for stripe. So there it is right there. I'm failing to see where in that passage it says that if you cause a baby to be aborted, it's okay, no big deal. Now, she used in her, she or he, whoever wrote that article, they used in their article the word miscarriage. If you cause a miscarriage, there's nothing to pay. It's no big deal. You don't find that in here. I looked even at several Bible versions. You don't see in any of the mainstream ones anyway, the word miscarry. What we have here is in verse 22, it says she gives birth prematurely, okay? So there's two men fighting. A woman somehow gets involved, and she gets hit. She falls to the ground. Something happens, and she gives birth prematurely. That is what the writer of our article discusses as a miscarriage. What exactly does this mean? Because even English here doesn't say it's a miscarriage, or doesn't say it's abortion or anything. It says she gives birth prematurely. So what does it mean? If you were reading this in the Hebrew in which it was originally written, the Hebrew words literally specifically mean something born, a child, comes out. Okay? So it says she gives birth prematurely. That's a couple of words there. Something that is born. That's a person here. It's a child, okay? It comes out. It doesn't specifically say whether this thing that is born is alive or dead. It's simply that phrase doesn't say that. It just said, here's this woman who's pregnant. She gets hurt in this scuffle, and this child comes out, okay? So far it doesn't say whether this child is alive or dead. But if you just read continue reading what it says, yet no harm follows. There's no harm. This child has come out, and everybody's okay. What happens? This man who caused this scuffle shall surely be punished according as a woman's husband imposes on him. He shall pay as the judge determines. So apparently you have this baby that is born prematurely because of this fight. And the man who actually hurt the woman has to pay, as the husband has to set a fee, and apparently the judges have to okay it. And this man then has to pay that bill. Why? Well, maybe there's going to be some other needs, and pay for their heartache, and maybe some doctor bills come up down the line or whatever. It doesn't really go into detail. It just says this man has to pay this family for causing this to happen. But then it continues. And, verse 23, but if any harm follows, then you shall give life for life, eye for eye, tooth for tooth, hand for hand, etc. So wait a minute here. What does it say? Clearly, it says if you fight and something happens to this woman, the baby comes out prematurely, there's no harm done, you still have to pay a fee, and that's it. But if harm is done, and it doesn't specifically say to whom, we're talking about two people here. We're talking about the woman and the baby. If there's harm done, then to the woman, maybe she dies. Maybe she loses an eye. If there's harm done to the baby, right? Because there's harm done here, then you give life for life. In other words, if this man is fighting with another man, the woman gets involved and the woman gets hurt, the baby is born prematurely and dies, that man gives his life because now harm was done. So not only is this not a passage that supports abortion, but is a passage that stands directly against abortion. If that baby is born and dies, or is stillborn, because of that fight, that man loses his life. That's exactly what it says. You can't twist it around to anything else. Or if the baby is born and maybe has, is blind because of this, well, guess what? The man loses his eyesight too. That's what it says right here. So you cannot say, well, Exodus 21 and the Bible says that a fetus is less important than a person. No, it's actually just exactly the opposite. So there you go. This article has no good basis. We need to think logically about things, which is exactly what we try to do on this channel. Hope that helps in some ways as we stand for life and against the practice of killing our babies before they're born. All right, God bless. I'll see you guys next time.